Hey guys, and boy oh boy do we have a treat for you today. Not one, but multiple games as I take on the might of Evenstar, the current Warhammer World Champion, in a best of three. Now, this was a semi-final game in a tournament hosted by Logic just the other day, and it's best of three. So I'm going to be hopping in, going through all the games, breaking them down a little bit, and having a good time. And honestly, comp against Evenstar can be pretty scary. Currently, the World Champion means he's a bit of a raid boss at the moment, but we will certainly put on our best display, and we're coming in with our most comfortable faction to start off with, which is the Lizardmen. Always good to play your main faction first, I find. Makes you very comfortable, and if you can get that first win, which is your best chance with your best faction, then all of a sudden you're way more relaxed. So for our forces, through the front line, we have a bucket ton of chameleon skinks, 5 units in fact, just to really try to pepper down the enemy. We've got a very skirmish-themed Lizardmen build up against the Empire today, not like you see every day. We have skink cohorts of javelins in the second battle line. Again, more range firepower to add to the blow darts of the chameleons. And we have double stegodon. Now, these are the basic stegodons, meaning they're coming in with these epic great bows and can really do some lovely damage to enemy knights, cavalry, and so forth. And from my experience recently, Empire players aren't bringing anywhere near as much artillery as they used to. So if they brought one great cannon, we might be able to outtrade them because we have a Slan Mage Priest of High Magic in the back. Coming in with Tempest to try and catch any wizards or Kolthran stuff flying around the skies. We have Hand of Glory, as well as Apotheosis and all the other good bound spells, items, and abilities. And look at them, he's just happy to be here. You don't often get to see me bring Slans either. I'm kind of a big soft spot for Nakai, Crocky G, Carnosaurs, and all that good stuff. We do have Cold One Spear Riders over on this left-hand flank. On the right-hand side, we had a little bit of extra funds left. So we have brought the Horned Ones, elite bad-to-the-bones cavalry, who can rip and tear Empire troops to pieces. For my opponent, he does have Marcus Wolfheart leading the Vanguard forces with all his abilities. Getting peppered down a little bit now, though, so he's having to fall back and juke left and right. Main battle line is made up with great swords, which is a great pick, because they'll certainly be able to chew their way through any skinks and saurus alike, plus put up a decent performance against the might of the Temple Guard. In the secondary line, we have Spearmen. Looks like they're also protecting the rear alongside some Halberds, so a little bit on either flank. And a central core of 3 company militia. So 1, 2, 3 of those bad boys. Units I'm seeing more and more of them. We do have double hero. We have the Deathcaster with Spirit Leech as well as a Blast Scroll and a Witch Hunter. But he's not coming in with Accusation, which I think is a bit of a mistake. But likewise, he can still do some pretty decent damage from long range and in combat. And we have a mighty steam tank rolling its way to victory, hopefully, for the forces of the Empire. Hopefully for Evenstar, hopefully not for me. So we do start to unleash hell upon it with our double Stegodon, and it's a large target. Stegodons aren't the most accurate of beasties, but their shots really do hit quite hard. And up against a steam tank, I'm looking to hit the majority of my shots, I would think, as a rather large entity. Marcus Wolfheart's trying to waste our ammunition, juke left and right, but to be honest, I'm quite happy for him to do this because he doesn't have any healing. And if we can get Marcus Wolfheart off the field quickly, we have 2 gigantic terror-causing monsters who can push up and do some really nice damage. As you can see, the steam tank is currently fleeing for its life, trying to get out of the line of sight of our great bows, who are now having to waddle forward before unleashing hell into the enemy once more. Chameleon's going to be starting to push up and rain fire down on those great swords. They have 95 armor, but no shields, so we should be able to do a decent amount of damage to them. You can see Marcus Wolfheart already down about a third of his HP. Great swords continue to push up, buffering the way so the 3 company militia can really start to rain in some fire on us. Plus, there's a lovely little hunter snare going down on this unit of chameleons. Great swords moving forward to intercept, get those big swords cleaving and start cutting apart the chameleon skinks. But we're doing some really nice damage on their approach. The net has come off now, and we can simply fall back and kite back the great swords. We also have the skink cohorts of javelins moving forward, looking to pepper them down from range. Similar situation is happening on the right-hand side, aiming at those great swords. Some of our horned ones get picked apart by the witch hunter, so we're having to fall back where possible. And we're playing a real patient game at the moment. Constant Spirit Leech spam plus the fire from the steam tank has done massive damage now to our Cold One Spear Riders, who are kind of Leroy Jenkins into the front line, just trying to get some value from them because I know they are currently getting absolutely destroyed there. They do charge in the front line, get a nice little bit of shock damage on the great swords, who are not having a good day whatsoever. Looking back at their commander like, you want us to hold? There's so many blow darts coming in. And yeah, the cold ones are dealt with, but another Spirit Leech used on them, and the great swords probably not going to be hanging around too much longer. Both the Stegodons continue to fire in, aiming at the steam tank, who is well placed currently behind this little rock. But luckily for me, it's not just quite not enough well hidden. We can actually shoot it, and we're doing some really nice damage to it now. 3,000 HP is all that remains, as the great swords continue to get peppered down in the front line. Both of us just trading fire at the moment, neither wanting to commit to a full-on engagement. I mean, I don't really have any plans to commit to a full engagement at all during this battle. I just want to get rid of the great swords and kite my opponent as much as possible, but the ammunition will start to run low. Horned ones do get Apotheosis just to heal them up nicely, and we're going to be falling way out of range, hopefully, of the enemy, though that steam tank is still doing some nice damage. As we can see, it is down to 2,000 health at the moment. Apologies for that little cough in there. So the Chameleons do push forward, continue to rain fire down on those greatswords, doing some pretty solid damage, down to 76 models here. Free Company Militia are starting to unleash hell upon us. Chameleon Skinks not the worst melee combatants though. Some of our javelins have pushed up now, launching those javelins into the greatswords, trying to get them down. Because if I can push off the greatswords, our Stegodons can simply walk into this back line. There's not too much my opponent can do about it. Horned ones continue to get a little bit of pressure here, but just waiting right in the back for now. We're actually going to start whipping them around because my opponent has readjusted his steam tank. It's now hiding really nicely behind this rock, so it can still fight across my battle line, but my Stegodons can no longer shoot it. So instead, the Horned ones will be starting to move up and around the side, and we're going to reposition one of our Stegodons to once again take sight at the steam tank. Only 2,000 health left on that bad boy. Skinks and Chameleons pushing forward once more, and now my opponent has pulled back his greatswords, realizing, you know what, I probably should protect them a bit more. So we're going to take advantage of this. Skink cohort is going to push forward to start to try to shut down the Free Company Militia. Greatswords, though, quick to react as more shots do wave over their head, meeting the charge of the little Skinkies head on. But we do outnumber them quite heavily at the moment, and the great swords have taken massive damage for the most part. Only 1,400 health, so the lowly skink cohorts should be able to cleave them asunder, as the steam tank is simply firing into skink cohorts at the moment, which isn't really great damage value for my opponent. Big shielded old ones does go down, helping the skinks to do even more damage to my opponent. However, the Free Company Militias have decided to fall back there, realising that pocket is probably going to break. And on the far side, more Free Company Militias have been forced back by Chameleon Skinks. Skink cohorts now getting in there on the injured opponent as the Chameleons continue to rain fire in. We can even see we use a blood statue spiked down on some greatswords. Steam Tank is on the run. Really beautiful micro by Evenstar to try and avoid the hunt of the Horned ones. We're not going to fall for this trick. We're going to move up and around away from the Spearmen and try to launch ourselves onto the Steam Tank, but we're hit by a Hunter's Snare, buying time for the Spearmen to come in here and do some really glorious damage to us alongside Marcus Wolfhart. Steam Tank actually moving into combat, looking to try and tear her out and break us, which is risky. Horned ones will now be able to latch onto the Steam Tank and start to rip and tear that armor asunder. And down it goes, one big shot there, down to 38 HP. Not a happy steam tank at the moment. Skink cohorts are getting in there, slowly pushing their way through the spear wall. Chameleons running very low on ammunition. They're going to be taking this opportunity to push their way through this opening in the centre of the formation. Hunt down those Free Company Militia. As I said before, Chameleons not terrible in hand-to-hand combat. Hand of Glory has been popped on this unit as it's desperately trying to get to grips with the enemy, but looks like we're going to have to give up the chase and come down to try to break off these spearmen. Both the Stegodons, full health, are starting to wade forward towards the enemy lines, having used up their ammunition. Over here, skink cohorts with javelins being hammered down by the greatswords, which is to be expected. More Chameleon Skinks as well. Just going to kite and pull away as many greatsword units as possible. The mighty Slan Mage Priest even having to get his hands dirty himself. And in come the Stegos, pushing their way through the halberd lines, flinging those men of the Empire left, right and centre. And now we can aim at pushing through, giving those attack orders onto the Free Company Militia. Really want to shut them down as quickly as possible. Marcus Wolfhart is still alive, which is a big pain in the butt for me. He's currently firing in quite nicely. Big shield of the old ones, though, does come in. Help protect these Chameleon Skinks in their mission to deal with the halberds. Stegodons are now pushing through onto the Free Company Militia, who have fallen back in different directions, which of course is a fantastic idea from Evenstar, so you can try and get that crossfire, and I can't shut down all the units in one go, because our other Stegodon getting a little bogged down here by Spearmen, as well as that Witch Hunter. We're really trying to force past him over here and disengage, but to help him escape, we are going to be popping a fat banishment down on the Spear unit, which currently has 90 troops in full health, and instantly they explode in puffs of blood. The old ones are pleased, down to 63 models just like that. Cold-blooded and Apotheosis goes down on this Stegodon to try and keep him alive and in the action on his dream to hunt down Marcus Wolfhart, pushing through the men of Sigma. Come here, Marcus. We want some of that food. And although the nice net there does catch our Stegodon, in fact, it catches both Stegodons, a little bit sloppy from us on that side there. But with a Hand of Glory popped on our Stegodon, he should be dealing relatively effectively with these Spearmen and the Death Cast, who's flown a little too close to the sun here. Free Company Militia charged in, and a Spirit Leech goes down just in time before the Wizard is tear-routed, and Marcus Wolfhart comes in with that massive damage on the Stegodon. He's put on a really good show so far today, and our battle line is basically gone. We have our large Stegodons left alive. The Horned One's still destroying troops in the back line, doing some good damage onto the Free Company Militia, who've been hit as well by Blood Statue of Spite, and there's one Horned One left fighting. What a hero! Refusing to run like, no, I fear no man. He's actually got more morale than the Free Company Militia, who outnumber him 34-1. We have some units clearing up enemy routing troops on the flanks, just using our skirmishers where possible. One Stegodon was forced off, but my opponent has 0 mobility in his build, so with an Apotheosis popped, he should be able to come back. Balance power is starting to swoop in our favour, but not definitively just yet. Stegodon pursues Marcus Wolfheart. This is for all the beasties you have slain in your life. Come here, Marcus. I've got something to say to you. Slar Mage Priest is fighting Spearman right now. Not the ideal engagement for him, but he still hits pretty hard. You know, he's a fat toad, but fat toads still have their uses. That Witch Hunter is rallying the troops, however, for the men of the Empire. Great Swords, Halberds, Spearmen, all looking to cleanse the world of the Dino Boys. Skink Cohorts chased off Free Company Militia, just trying to shatter troops where possible. We do have Skink Cohorts and Chameleons coming back to the main fray. We're ignoring these great swords. There's no need to really engage them whatsoever. I'm also ignoring the main battle line of my opponent, using all my forces just to chase down routing troops. I want to push that balance power as far in my favour as possible, and the whole time this is going on, we can save up that Winds of Magic for more healing on the Stegodons in the late game. Stegodon is, looks like he must have dealt with Marcus Wolfheart by now, and is now going after that Death Caster, trying to remove the leadership aspects of my opponent's build. Free Company Militia being forced off the battlefield, likewise so is the Death Caster now. We're going to try to float over to this side. We can isolate the Witch Hunter here and his Spearmen away from all these Halberd units, popping in lovely cheeky Apotheosis down on the Stegodon to keep him lovely and topped up, and a happy boy indeed. Slar Mage Priest drops a Shield of the Old Ones down on our Skinks, meaning they're going to trade rather effectively up against the Spearmen, and we still have one Banishment, I believe, left in the tank. Slan and Stegodon doing a little bit of bumping and grinding there mid-battle. It's a little bit naughty, but the Spearmen have been able to catch the Slar Mage Priest, which is fine for me as long as we can distract them. And in we come with a big, fat, juicy Banishment coming down on top of those Halberds with massive damage and friendly fire damage to our Chameleon Skinks. But that is unfortunately what they're here for, bogging down the enemy. And it is going to be 1-0 to us, taking the scalp of the Grand Champion. Very well played to Evenstar, though. A close game, and I think when he bowed out at the end there, that was pretty much all over. He didn't have enough troops to deal with the Stegodons, and we still had one big, healthy one coming in as well after just forcing off that Death Caster. Quite a big fan of his build, though. It's a rather interesting formation I haven't seen terribly often before. Marcus Wolfheart coming in with the 1.2k damage value. Not as great as I expected, but still did a good number on one of those Stegodons. I suppose in the early game, he was kind of wasting a lot of his ammunition, didn't have too many good targets to really focus down. Likewise, the Death Caster, those nasty Spirit Leeches on key targets is always a good use of Winds of Magic, and the Witch Hunter himself is completely naked, not something you see every day. 800 damage value, not too shabby. Spearman front line basically did absolutely nothing apart from absorb some damage. A few units actually, 700 damage value here, and Halberd 785. But that's really just mopping up their way through Skinks and Chameleons in combat when that finally did engage. Great Swords across the board, 111 damage value, 178, 244, 657. Appalling damage value on the Great Swords, and that is because they simply stood there and took a lot of my ammunition. Even started trying to play the patient game and figuring out, or trying to calculate that the Steam Tank plus the Death Caster and Wolfheart with the Free Company Militia would get more damage value than all my Javelins, Stegodons and so forth, but unfortunately didn't quite pay off for him today. Free Company Militia, 348 damage value, 563, 448, 542. Not as good as I thought it was going to be, considering they could use up a lot of that ammunition. Steam Tank, likewise, only 909 damage value. Again, not too shabby, but for such an expensive unit, you certainly expect it to pay a little bit more. As for our own forces here, the double Stegodon. Looks like they actually gained some chevrons in the battle. 1,900 damage value on one, 1,900 damage value on the other. 28 and 68 kills may not seem too insane, but they really neutered the effectiveness of the Steam Tank and enabled me as well in the end game just to push and drive through the enemy once we had softened them up. Unfortunately, our cavalry kind of got obliterated, particularly this unit on the left, who got just hammered by the Spirit Leeches and the Steam Tank in the early stage and Marcus Wolfheart, and ended up having to do a suicide charge just to try and get some value and waste more ammunition on my opponent. Likewise, the Horned Ones didn't really get much value whatsoever, just spending most of their time getting shot, floating around that left-hand flank, but they did help pin in the Steam Tank and finish it off for good. Chameleon Skinks across the board, 861 damage value here, 705, 773, 610 and 752. all putting on a really good display. Likewise, the little javelins, for the most part, managed to pay for themselves. Slar Mage Priest of High Magic got 937 damage value, mainly coming from those banishments, but again, his more importance was in those Hand of Glories, allowing our little skinks to overwhelm Greatswords, who were already a bit battered, and Apotheos to heal up the mighty Stegodons. Hope you guys enjoyed that first one, but don't worry, there's plenty more to come. This is a best of 3, so at least 1, maybe 2 games, who knows. So I'm going to pop up a little screen blocker here so you can't see the number of replays, in fact. And we will get on to the next one. Let's pop our little no peeking. Very thematic considering we did manage to win there with the Lizardmen. Problem though, in this best of 3 of course, is I have now used my best faction. I don't think it's a secret that my best faction is Lizardmen. Every time I come in a tournament, 9 times out of 10 people will ban them unless they have a strong counter pick. But luckily, I managed to get them out early there. And up next, it shall be myself leading the force of Norsca up against Evenstar and his vampire counts. A matchup I actually don't really hate for Norsca. I'm like that one guy who's like, it's not so bad, when everyone else really hates it quite a bit. When we load in, I'll get rid of the screen blocker and go through the builds for you guys, and it's going to be a pretty familiar build if you've seen me bring Norsca competitively in tournaments up against vampire counts, although Evenstar's build is pretty wild itself, and I'm a massive fan of his build throughout. So let's quickly put this on pause, get rid of that nasty little screen blocker. You have done your job, well done, Mighty Crocky G, and let's hop in here. So for our forces, we've gone for a bit of a Deathbox style build. So we have Marauders in the front line, supported by the Brutes of the Hound, who are the regiment of renowned Marauder Berserkers, as well as the Marauder Champions. But apart from that, basic, cheap and cheerful Marauders dotted all around the flanks, forming a nice protective perimeter around the triple Marauder Hunter Javelins. Now these units are super key. They're going to kill all my enemies large if I can protect them. Luckily for me, vampires, in general, have a weakness to fire, so we are bringing a familiar Belfiend of Fire with Burning Head, Fireball, and a Flaming Sword of Rune. And yes, Flaming Sword of Rune, though it sounds, or Flaming Sword, you'd think it'd be close combat based, it also gives fire damage to long range troops, so of course, you can see the combo we're going for here. Up in the skies, we have a Ferromanticore as well as a Frostworm combo. Very powerful, because once again, when buffed or supported with Javelins, can actually take down a lot of the enemy flyers. And leading our forces, we have the basic Marauder Chieftain. The one matchup where I think he's actually better than Wulfric. He's a little bit cheaper, comes in with Fight or Die, which is nice, but the Flaming Axe is what we want him for. Now, he is disabled when he's below 50% leadership, but up until that point, he gets plus 9 melee attack, plus 22% base weapon damage, and fire damage, which again, as we've spoken about, counts weakness to fire. It only makes sense. For my opponent, up in the skies, we have a Strigoi Vampire Lord floating up over on the sky, and he's a nasty looking fellow. He can come in and do some really good damage. He has the claws on him, Opal Amulet, Power Stone, Gaze of Nagash, Invocation Heck, Spirit Leech, and you can see Evenstar kind of going with the real meta of bringing Magic Missiles and Spirit Leech. Those direct damage spells can be really nasty over the course of the battle. It looks like we have one unit of Hexstraves hiding in the trees over on one side, another unit of Hexstraves hiding in the back, and they're really scary because not that much magic damage that can be brought to the table from the Norscan forces. In the front line, we have a load of zombies. We're actually just going to normal mode, I think, for now. Supported by a Mortis Engine, Necromancer on a Corpse Cart, Graveguard, as well as Skeleton Warriors in the back line. Double Crypt Horrors, and that's going to be about it. So really looking for his mighty Strigoi Vampire Lord, who's just shot a Gaze and Nagash into the Manticore, and a massive damage to my Ferromanticore, which is, poor little fellow, just wants to live his life, and he's already near rampaging, which is a little bit unfortunate for us there. But still, good shot coming in by the Vampire Lord himself. Looks like it was overcast though, and he did miscast a little bit. Manticore briefly rampages and instantly stops rampaging. I remember seeing that in the battle and thinking, that's really odd. Don't know what was going on there. Hexstraves do pop around the right-hand flank, so I have noticed them now and realise they're going to be a big threat to my back line, and my back line needs to stay active if I want to win. Didn't mention earlier, but we do have 2 units of Warhounds as well, their main job just to protect this back force, and a Spirit Leech spam is now going down on the Ferromanticore, which is to be expected. Shoot him with your magic missiles, poison him with Spirit Leech, watch him rampage into the wrong targets, and you can deal with him quite comfortably. But we're using him really defensively here, just kind of staying way back where possible, as my opponent does play the slow game, trying to get as much value as possible from those magic missiles. Hexwraith is going to start floating over to this side on top of the Marauder, but the Frostworm is nearby and can help support, so Hexwraith thinks better of it. Big Breath Attack comes down the familiar Belfiend, but we managed to dodge with the deft touch there of the Belfiend tapping his feet and escaping. Hexwraiths are starting to push up on this left-hand flank. But again, it's not going to be the end of the world if they stick in combat too long, because we have the Flame Sword of Rune, which is going down. However, obviously, even a rather experienced player knows I'm not going to be sticking around here. Despite that, though, those javelins, just a one javelin volley coming in, obliterates the Hex Wraiths down to about a third health. However, they are undead, so of course can be healed up. Now this is where we make our first mistake of the game. Marauder champions are pushing forward over eagerly to chase down some zombies. I thought this was a unit of basic marauders, in which case I was going to be really happy for the sacrifice that unit, because on the right hand side we were using this time to crump a unit of Graveguard. But still, it's not the end of the world. Marauder champions have pushed forward too far. My opponent decides to chuck all his large creatures into that. And that's actually perfect for me, because now the hunters just have free will to launch javelin after javelin after javelin into those crypt horrors who are getting dumpstered and destroyed here. We can then switch our types onto the next one. Cheap Marauders have had to come back to reform the shield wall, and we're getting some Graveguard in the bargain as well. It's not too terrible. Ferromanticore once again got hit by Spirit Leech and is unfortunately rampaging into the enemy. Frostworm is in the back line looking to protect against the Hex Wraiths, who have really comfortably dealt with our Norscan Warhounds, who are currently terrified and running for their lives. More Marauders do coming in though, just to try and force a kind of protective wall around our Hunters, as that back line is getting real messy right about now. Brucehound are here to support. Our Hunters are trying to flee in all directions, and we have some Marauders who need to come back into the main fight. Summon of zombies, or Skeleton Warriors in fact, comes down on the Marauder Hunters, trying to save them. Biggs, the Flaming Sword of Rune, goes down once again as the Frostworm attempts to assassinate the Mortis Engine with the help of the Marauder Chieftain. A beautiful breath attack comes down by Evenstar on top of the Frostworm, doing massive damage to it. And its attempt to finish the Mortis Engine may be its doom. Hex Wraiths once again charge in, but Flaming Sword of Rune is still active. Every time the Marauder Chieftain gets a hit in, many horses shall indeed die. The Marauder Hunters falling back a little bit to a little pocket of safety here. Once again, they can be protected by the Norscan Warhounds, and our Javelins shall hopefully be able to finish off this Mortis Engine, which is getting held up by an Invocation of Nehek. Frostworm is running for its life, so are many of our troops. Marauders have fled in all directions. Beautiful micro as well, using these Hex Wraiths to hunt down the Marauder Hunter Javelins, doing some good damage to them. Big Fat Fireball comes in onto the Mortis Engine, looking to try and kill it, and it looks like we will be able to succeed at this. Ferromanticore coming in, doing some nice damage alongside the Marauder Chieftain. And that Mortis Engine, yeah, that's going down. No hope of survival for you. Brucehound, of course, unbreakable, forming a real nice bulwark in that front line. My opponent is leaving a unit of Skeleton Spearmen in the back line, and this is tactical. This isn't kind of a forgotten unit, because in the end game, he can attack with this unit and cycle charge to death with his large entity. So leaving a unit at the back corner, so you can technically fulfill the attacking role, is something a lot of Torment players do indeed end up doing. Smear Belfiend is trying to take down that Necromancer alongside the Marauder Chieftain, who's getting supported by some Javelin Fire, having these pesky Hex Wraiths in the back line, doing really good damage and hunting down our Javelins with good effectiveness. Smear Belfiend once again pops down the Flaming Sword, as the Frostworm unfortunately is probably going to get killed here. He does come in with one last breath attack, aiming in the rear of those zombies, and Graveguard does a bit of friendly fire as well, and he's going to swoop underneath my opponent to crash in, trying to shatter the morale of these zombies. It looks like another breath attack is going to come in, but I think the Frostworm was dead anyway, so at the end of the day, not terrible for us. The Marauder Chieftain is trying to hang it near the Smear Belfiend where possible, and we can hopefully form a mobile death block. Ferromanticore has returned once again to the field. We're going to try and kite and pull away the Strigoi Vampire Lord from the main engagements, but my opponent, far smarter than that, isn't going to play ball and hunt down our Manticore. Berserkers, as well as Marauders, looking rather healthy, and we're clearing for a lot of the chaff of my opponent. Bounce Pad is slightly in his favour, and a lovely rear attack comes in from the Vampire Lord on the Chieftain, who's currently busy dealing with that Necromancer. But hello, boy, we've turned around, and the Vampire Lord, yeah, you may build a big old dragon, but I'm a mammoth, and you don't want to hang around with the mammoth too long in combat. You can see that Vampire Lord taking massive damage now, really getting the snot kicked out of him, and the Marauder Chieftain proving, who the true king of the jungle is. Double Hex Wraiths coming in from both flanks once again. Looks like they've been held up quite a lot. So what we're going to do, we're going to pop, you guessed it, Flaming Sword of Rune down. And the Hex Wraiths once again will be forced off. Ferromanticore does swoop down, trying to avoid the opponent before once again, looks like, is he going to get caught? Run, little Manticore, run! He's just running away for now, going after the Necromancer actually, looking to suicide charge the enemy hero here to death. Floating around, comes swooping in and overshoots just a little bit, but with a big attack animation is right back into the hunt. Necromancer getting very low, likewise is the Ferromanticore, but a big slash of the claws, Necromancer down to 1,000 health, although the poor Ferromanticore has been dealt with. Luckily for me though, my opponent's infantry is pretty much gone. He simply has Necromancer, the Hex Wraiths, as well as the Strigoi Vampire Lord. A well-placed zombie summon should allow him to fall back with the rest of his troops. Necromancer, minus 36 leadership, probably going to crumble into dust here. Strigoi Vampire Lord does pop Opal Amulet, but I'm happy to face this with my Marauder Chieftain. We're a mighty warrior beast ourselves, and we're supported right now by the Baleffiend as well as the Marauders. Baleffiend does magic damage, so he's targeting the Hex Wraiths, trying to finish those guys off where possible, and the Corpse Cart has been dealt with. Balance power still slightly against us, and in the distance, we do have Norscan Warhounds and Marauders who can come back into the fray. Yet another Death Shriek goes down on the Chieftain, whose attack animation takes him away from friendly foes as he pushes in after the Hex Wraiths, but Flaming Sword of Ruin will be getting popped here. These Hex Wraiths really don't want to stay around here. The Marauders also going to be able to chew through the zombies quite quickly. They are surrounded at the moment, but the Hex Wraiths not going to be enjoying this whatsoever. Marauder Chieftain is wavering a little bit. Fight or Die has been popped, however, as the Hex Wraiths once again flee. We do have some Marauder Hunter Javelins on this flank, launching shot after shot into that Vampire Lord. The claws have been popped on him to try and buff his melee effectiveness. Hex Wraiths have been dealt with, which means we have these Javelins on this flank, quite happily attacking my enemy with impunity. Marauder Berserkers doing a good job as well, chewing through the zombies, and it looks like for the most part all the enemy infantry has been dealt with. Just our Marauder Hunter Javelins, who are unfortunately terrified and soon to be shattered. Strigoi Vampire Lord is looking to charge in, try to get as much cycle charging as possible on the Chieftain, and that would be a pretty good work for him. So all around, I'm going to pop this into slow-mo here, as there was a little bit of a rules dispute, which I should probably bring up at this point. So if we have a little look across the battlefield, you can see I've got a few units over here, and we are trying to attack our enemy. Fortunately for us though, our enemy is going to be cycle charging with the Vampire Lord, and the Skeleton Spearmen and Hex Wraiths have no intention of attacking. They're just simply running away, and this does happen for like 15 to 20 seconds. I might need to kind of re-look up the rules or something, because I'm not sure if this is allowed now. The referee said it was fine. As far as I'm aware, you can't do this because it does allow the Vampire Lord to get in a little bit of a cycle charge, and he's still fleeing in all directions, like not engaging now. Only when he realizes that the Vampire Lord isn't going to be able to escape alone does he commit his forces. It happens for a little while, but at the end of the day, ref said it was fine, so it's fine. Marauders as well as the Marauder Chieftain. Flaming Sword once again has been popped. Chieftain though once again receiving that cycle charge, which is so powerful because it's buffing all the stats of the Vampire Lord, who was getting his arse kind of kicked by the Marauder Chieftain and the Berserkers. Fimir Baleffiend is fighting with the Hounds in here. It is a fight to the death. If our Marauder Chieftain goes down, it is certainly going to be game, and we do not have Fight or Die currently ready to pop, and the Chieftain breaks and runs for his life. Bruiser Hound continue to fight alongside the Marauders. They are buffed up right now. They are angry. They have that added leadership, melee attack, physical resistance, carving their way through the enemy where possible. But balance of power has really gone against us now. And it looks like we do an overcast fireball, aiming to take out that Vampire Lord. But it overcasts and unfortunately does not go off. Marauders are running for their lives at the moment. Brutes of the Hound will continue, of course, to fight to the death. But unfortunately, it's pretty much over at this point. Strigoi Vampire Lord is way too healthy, with 3,600 health left for even the might of the Fimir Baleffiend and the Norscan Warriors to drag down. We're wavering, we're breaking, and just the brutes shall remain. 16 troops deciding to fight to the death here, completely surrounded by undeadly horrors, and they're doing a pretty good job. I mean, they're covered in blood. I'd like to see how much damage value they got by the end. They're one of those units I really enjoy using, and what a cool looking game this is. I always forget until I zoom in like this. So big Strigoi Vampire Lord swagging through, running over those poor brutes of the Hounds who do get rammed down to the ground. Only 8 of those bad boys left. So we'll fast forward a little bit as death embraces our Lord, which normally is not a sign you like to see, as the brutes continue to scrap out down to the last man. That was a pretty intense game, very back and forth, could have gone either way there. It was real kind of on a teeter's edge. Well played to Evenstar though for taking the victory, and yeah, not trying to take anything away from his victory with the little rules dispute at the end. It may just be my knowledge of the rules isn't like up to scratch, and maybe they've changed the attacking role. I know there was some changes to it there, but thought I'd showcase it anyway because it was something that came up in the battle. But again, well played to him, excellent vampire count play. Really impressed by his Strigoi Vampire Lord. 4,000 damage value. Oh my god, it makes me sick. It makes me sick. So much work on the bad boy. And it's cool to see the Strigoi around. You do see him in some matchups, particularly this one. But you don't often get to see him do that much damage value. Necromancer only 305 damage value. Really got punished, unfortunately, by some of our flying troops. Across the board, zombies, of course, are the ultimate meat sacks. Likewise, the spearmen were a similar role here, just looking to hold me in place so he could cycle charge with his cavalry and large entities all day, and it worked rather well. Graveguard really suffered as well, just isolating that one target and stomping it into dust helped quite nicely. Double Hex Wraiths, 1,156 damage value, 1.5k on this one. Really powerful unit in this matchup. We nearly took one out if my opponent was a little worse. He might have left his Hex Wraiths in, but the World Champion doesn't make those kind of mistakes, falling back and escaping from the early blunder of charging them in near those Flaming Sword of Rune Javelins. Morrison unit solid, 674 damage value, and the poor Cryptor just got annihilated, unfortunately, early on. As for our own forces, the Marauder Chieftain put on his best display, 2,544 damage value, going toe-to-toe with the enemy, being a real solid linebacker as well in our force, keeping those troops together. From there, Belfiender Fire did some beautiful damage value, 1.2k, which is pretty wild considering we don't think we even used a Burning Head. We just kept buffing up our own troops. Marauders across the board as well, getting some pretty solid damage value. The poor Champions, unfortunately, was a misplay for me, got pushed forward and punished. Brutes of the Hound, though, 254 kills, 1,127 damage value, 18k damage dealt. Very impressive stuff by them. Marauder Hunters across the board, 1, 2, 3. One suffered a little bit, got finished off quite early. The other two, though, 1.8k damage value, 1.4. These guys, I'm telling you, Marauder Hunters are the ultimate hunters of large creatures. The Warhounds weren't really here to do any damage, just help hit the back line from zombie summons and bog down the enemy. Likewise, the Ferromanticore and Frostworm actually got punished, which doesn't normally happen in this matchup, but that Gaze of Nagash really caught me off guard, catching the Ferromanticore and neutering their effectiveness. Despite this, got some okay damage value across the board. So guys, it is going to go all the way to Game 3 in a hotly contested best of 3 from this semi-final. And yeah, I was feeling not like unconfident. I don't face anyone and never feel like, oh, I stand no chance. But after the first game, I was pretty confident. And after this game, I was a little less. So we'll have to see how we do go here. So let's probably pop up that little no peeking again. Although I guess you guys now know it goes to best of 3, but make sure I've got no rude replay names saved. So here we go. So it is going to be my Tomb Kings up against Evenstars Warriors of Chaos. A pretty interesting matchup throughout. And this was a strange battle, like a very, very strange battle. We are playing on the Southern Chaos Way, so the Tomb Kings, of course, have advanced into Chaos territory, trying to take the fight to the enemy. And both builds are interesting, to say the least. So let's pop a little pause on here and get rid of this screaming blocker. Good boy, Crocky G, holding the line there for us. And let's get into this. I'm actually going to play this probably at just full speed to start with, because it is a very slow game to get going. Our main battle line, or battle plan, as well as Skeleton Warriors in the front line, dotted all the way around, cheap, cheerful, happy to be here, will certainly pin in the enemy. They are my anvil. My hammers are the Kepid Guard in the central pocket here, regiment around Tomb Guard who can really dispatch Chaos infantry of effectiveness. One unit of Yshopti, we have the Tomb Guard of Halberds, as well as a Casket of Souls. We have our traditional triple chariot corps. We have the Necrotect, who of course does bring that glorious weakness to fire to enemies around him. Tomb Prince with all his buffs, and Cetra the Imperishable, coming in with all his own buffs and weapons like the Blessed Blade and Rafa Petra, but also comes in with Incantation of Skullstorm, with Incantation of Protection and Incantation of Cursed Blades. So you can see our battle plan. Everything is basically chuffy, and then we have a few hammers to bring down the enemy. For my opponent, he has 1, 2, 3 Marauder Horsemen over on one flank, as well as 1, 2, 3 on this side. These guys, pretty pesky and annoying throughout, and they are the perfect counter to my build, pretty much. They'll do massive damage to all my chariots, so I cannot afford to charge forward and abandon the Casket of Souls until these guys have been dealt with. We also have the Everwatcher moving himself forward, the mighty duck himself, so my opponent getting into the mind of a duck to defeat a duck, hopefully, in his opinion. We have Chaos Warriors of Halberds in the secondary line, and a load of Chaos Marauders in the front line. We have the Sword of Damnation Hell Cannon and 1 unit of Chaos Trolls, which is an interesting pick. I haven't seen Chaos Trolls in a while, but I'm sure Evenstar knows better than me why he's brought them in this matchup. So my opponent is trying to drop down Searing Doom, so managed to juke the worst of them, and his Hell Cannon shots are going into Skeleton Warriors. Now, you may be wondering at this point, Ducky, advance! Advance, damn it! He has a Hell Cannon! Why aren't you advancing? Well, as I said before, if I advance and leave my Casket of Souls, I have nothing to kill the Horsemasters and Horsemen. Literally nothing in my army can catch them. They can use all the ammunition on my characters, who are my damage dealers, and we instantly lose the game. So my Caster Souls is going to have to do its best and try to hunt down the Horsemen where possible, deal with as much damage as possible so I don't have as many javelins to throw, and just try to wait out my opponent's ammunition. Push Skeleton Warriors at him, make him waste javelins on units I don't care about. Skeleton Warriors are going to do absolutely nothing for me in this matchup, apart from be chaff to help protect my troops. Another Searing Doom does come down on the Skeleton Warriors. We managed to juke the worst of it though, just catching the end of it. Skeletons can be a little bit slow. Cetra as well as the Tomb Prince and Necrotect are going to push forward, driving away my opponent. So we'll fast forward this bit a little bit. It's a very, very long stage as we literally use up all our ammunition on the Casket of Souls and try and bait out my opponent's Hell Cannon shots. And, well, we're doing some nice damage actually in fairness to the Horsemen. And dodge Searing Dooms, make him waste Winds of Magic, and just shoot units here and there where we can. So, as you can see, the battle timer doesn't really get started. I felt really bad. This was being live streamed as well by Logic in the tournament. And I was like, oh god, I feel so bad for you having to cast this game, because it's probably a little bit of a nightmare. Loads of shots do come in though, and we're forcing off quite a lot of the Horsemen now. Casket of Souls is up to 63 kills, not too shabby at all. That's 63 less troops to throw javelins at our precious chariots. Because the Everwatcher isn't really going to stop us. Trolls definitely aren't going to stop us, because we give that weakness to fire damage and then dish out fire damage. So we're really hunting down the Horsemen at the moment. More shots going in. It looks like a few of them are wavering, breaking, and coming back. I'm trying to force Skeleton Warriors forwards just to waste ammunition on troops, such as the Hell Cannon, because this unit's crumbling and going to die anyway. So every time we have a unit which gets really low, we simply push it into the enemy to waste more and more shots. Looks like the Casket nearly out of ammo though, only 2 shots remaining, and the first big Hell Cannon shot actually comes in and hits the Kepper Guard. Now that's that nasty damage I do not enjoy, and we start the advance, leaving the Casket of Souls behind, because at this point it can't really do anything. So now the battle is fully and truly well underway. 7 minutes and 50 seconds before any real kind of melee presence can be felt on the battlefield. Chariots are driving headlong towards the enemy. I'm not really fussed, even by the halberds. We can simply cycle charge those guys to death in the later stages. So Cetra, Leroy Jenkins is straight onto the Sword of Damnation, and in comes the Everwatcher. So we're going to be trying to drag him back now, pull him into our Ushopti and other chariots who crash forward into the Chaos Trolls, and you can see how quickly these Chaos Trolls will die if they stick around. Cetra launches himself once again into combat. Blade of Setep has gone down, lowering the armor and physical resistance. They are not having a good day whatsoever, but my greatest fears are realized. Horsemasters continue to launch in shots now to all our key targets as the rest of our chaff does start to advance. A beautiful Searing Doom comes in, hitting those Skeleton Warriors, and this time we can't juke it because we're focused instead on the front line. Ushopti being used now to pin in all of these troops. Looks like they might be able to deal with the Chaos Trolls before they themselves die, and our Chariot Core is going to float out to their side and start picking apart some of my opponent's infantry. Castle Souls vibing at the back is just, you know, no ammunition left, but we'll be pushing forward eventually. Hell Cannon now is focusing down the Tomb Guard, getting some lovely work on this bad boy. 185 kills, but I don't think a lot of the damage value is going to be that crazy, to be honest, because it was mainly focused in chaff to start with. Chaos Marauders have been dealt on this flank, so now the Chariots will once again push in to the main fight, and they're looking pretty bleak so far. Balance fight is relatively even, but I'm not that unconfident, because my entire army is basically a ruse. These Chariots are what is going to do all of your work, and we do now charge in. The Chaos Warriors of Halberds are here, which is a little bit scary, so when they're pinned in by the Tomb Guard, we're actually going to drop down a Skull Storm to try and deal with them, and it does some okay damage. Unfortunately for us, it does go the complete wrong direction, but despite this, we have some Ushopti here as well, try and pin them in and do damage where possible. The Everwatcher makes the biggest mistake of his life, trying to take on Cetra the Imperishable. You may be a big duck, and I have a special place in my heart for you, but Triple Chariots just nuke the Everwatcher. Look at his health just drop off him as blood and feathers start to get blown away in the wind. Very close to assassination here, so he's going to force in his horsemen to help protect and bog down our troops. Likewise, the halberds are here to help support, and a Searing Doom is going to come down. But it's only really going to do damage to the Skeleton Warriors. Kepguard attempt to move as far away and dodge where possible. Don't take too much damage. We're now moving over to this side to do some good work onto the Chaos Warriors. Now that they've been pinned in by the Skeleton Warriors, we're simply going to charge in, wheel around, and charge out. But again, the big problem, these Horsemasters, we have nothing in our build to deal with them. I was prepared for Horsemasters with the Casket, but not this insane number of Skirmish Cav, which I probably should have been more aware for. Skirmish Cav right now is probably the most powerful thing in game meta. Soon does come down, but once again, we managed to avoid the worst. Red Chariots are going on the hunt for the Everwatcher. Scroll of Power is currently popped on him, just 433 health. Looks like our summoned Ushopti are dealt with, but not before they do massive damage to the Chaos Warriors with Halberds, which is good for us. I want the Halberds off the field where possible. We have very limited troops left alive. Casket Souls is slowly coming forward, trying his little heart out, and the Everwatcher is juking. Running good micro here by Evenstar, whipping up and around this big blob, falling away and getting away from our chariots. So we're trying to chase, but it is pretty hard right now, and all the time this is happening, our ground forces are starting to disappear a little bit. Chaos Warriors once again get charged here, and we are going to come in with another sandstorm on the Chaos Warriors with Halberds, catching both units. And look, it's such a cool animation. The skulls come up, and in the distance, even the Everwatcher is going to have to flee into his own troops, trying to assassinate the Necrotech, had some pathing issues, and accidentally, instead of getting whipped around the side, came in and isolated him. This is a big, horrific mistake for me. I need all three of my chariots, because that's what gives the weakness to fire damage. Big Blessed Blade does go down, doing huge work on the Chaos Warriors, but the Necrotect does fall. Curse has gone down, catching this huge blob, and you can see the Warriors of Chaos starting to break and flee for their lives. Chaos Trolls running, Halberds running, the Soul of Damnation, very low on ammunition as well. We have some Skeleton Warriors, but they're crumbling, so are the Tomb Guard. This is such a close game, and we pop our secret trap card, the Curse. Once that Tomb Prince gets below half health, he can force units to rampage, so we rampage the enemy skirmish cavalry into our melee combatants. Get over here, we scream, and we start slaughtering. We've broken two of the Marauder Horsemen, and I'm trying to chase them where possible. Only one unit left still has ammunition, it seems, for the Horsemen, so most of the enemy skirmish cav has now been dealt with. The Soul of Damnation is still firing, and that is a scary threat indeed. And some of the Warriors of Chaos will be coming back and rallying. Balance Power still dead even, as the Casket of Souls is currently in the midst of a load of Chaos Warriors. We're really desperately running low on infantry troops. I'm trying to kill the Soul of Damnation here. It still has a few shots. We can maybe finish off Cetra and the Tomb Prince. And it looks like for the most part the Skirmish Cav doesn't have that much ammo left. This unit over here does actually, 6 ammo. That's pretty rough. I'm going to try and run in and save the Casket of Souls, just to do damage to the Chaos Warriors, drive in and try to hunt them down. Unfortunately, we only have single entities left, so we are going to basically have to try to stand and fight where possible. Incantation of Protection does go down on Cetra, and the Casket's trying its best alongside the Tomb Prince, looking to try and break the morale of these Chaos Warriors. Balance Power does go more and more against us, so my opponent does the wise situation here. Sit around the outside with your Skirmish Cav, throw in Javelins and the like, and just send in one unit after another, which I have to fight and bog down, before trying to surround me in the end game. Chaos Warriors have been dealt with and forced off, so we are now going to be pushing forward, trying to hunt down the Horsemen. Of course, they will simply flee. At this point, I realise my best bet is hunt down these Halberds here who don't have that much health. If we can break them and force them off, the rest of this infantry corps will simply shatter if they get touched by two chariots chasing them. So it all comes down. Can I break off these Halberds and survive the last dregs of ammunition? Well, there are some Chaos Trolls coming back, and they're no joke. Unfortunately, Balance Power is slipping and falling. Cetra does not serve, but Cetra does perish. A very close game and a great way to end the series. Evenstar, the king, currently the world champion, claims my scalp in a 2-1 affair with three pretty damn close games. I think the first game was probably the least close. We were relatively comfortable by the mid stage, but all of these games were absolutely wild. Our little trap card there of the Curse nearly managed to pull it back, but nonetheless well played. And in this matchup, honestly, I feel like we did as good as we could. The decision to sit back and shoot the Horsemen, I think, is the right decision. I think it is. I think if we push forward, the Casket just dies, obviously, because we can't protect it if we push forward by the Horsemen and the Horsemasters, and then we have nothing which can touch them. So getting as many of them off the field as possible to buy as much time as possible for our chariots, I think was the right move. So we'll go through the damage value, damage stats of this in just a second, but I hope you guys enjoyed this. It was a really good, fun series all around, and hopefully we face Evenstar again at some point in the future. And yeah, close games all around. So if you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a thumbs up. Please do comment down below as well. What was your favourite moment? Who was your MVP? What was your favourite of the 3 battles? And what would you like to see in the future? Also, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this content. It really helps push the channel out to more people, so we can bolster the roster of the Duck Guard and get as many people interested in Warhammer as possible. And there are going to be links as well in my description down below to my Nexus account, which you can pre-order pretty much all Warhammer games and all the Total War Warhammer games. If you do it via there, it's all approved by CA, and I get a little bit of the money as well. There's also links down below to my Discord, where you can submit replays to me, get involved in the tournament scene, chill out with a load of cool people as well, and a link to my Patreon if you would like to support the channel. So, let's go over Evenstar's build first. The mighty Everduck, how did he perform? Well, despite some really good Searing Dooms, a lot of them were duped as well. So 1,500 damage value, not too shabby. We've seen him get far more before, but he wasn't necessarily the key kind of unit in this build. Apart from that, Marauders go absolutely hammered. The Halberds did slightly better across the board, particularly this unit who was fighting you Shopty for a long time. 1.2k damage value, but it's all about the Horsemen here. 478, 684, 433, 129, not looking great, but the Horse Masters were better protected by my opponent and got racked up 1,100 and 1,500 damage value. These guys pretty much single-handedly won the game. Chaos Trolls, not too shabby, 783. The Solar Damnation, this is what I'm talking about. 186 kills, but only 1,340 damage value. Didn't really kill any key targets, although a couple of good shots on their Kepler Guard were really nice and neutered their effectiveness. Our Shopty, our Kepler Guard, our Tomb Guard, and all our front line basically got no damage value whatsoever, but the Chill Chariot, 1,300, 1,200, and 3,190 damage on Cetra, nearly carrying us to victory. Casket Souls, 1,331 damage value. Well, that, I can say, was one of the most stressful best of threes I've ever played. Very close games, very fun all around, and hopefully we get more like this in the future. We're doing a live stream today as well at 6 PM BST, which probably won't be too fast at the time. Oh god, yeah. By the time this is up, we'll probably be in about an hour's time. And we're also going to be doing a one build battle royale tournament tomorrow. And if you want to play in that, simply join the Discord. Anyway guys, until next time, peace, peace. And as always, stay awesome.